The shock factor. Have you ever pulled up to a stoplight and looked over at the car next to you and thought, wait, how does that person afford that vehicle? I'm talking about the massive pickup truck or luxury SUV with a price tag that could fund a small wedding. Polished paint, oversized wheels, interior that smells like new leather and questionable financial decisions. And the driver, they're not a celebrity. They're not a CEO. They probably work a job very similar to yours. So how is this happening? How are ordinary Americans driving vehicles that cost more than their annual salary, while also complaining about gas prices and grocery bills? Today, we're going to break down exactly how this system works, why it feels normal, and why it's quietly wrecking people's financial futures without them realizing it. The new normal that shouldn't be normal. A decade ago, a $400 car payment raised eyebrows. Today, that number sounds quaint. The average new car payment in the US now lives well above $700 a month. For trucks and SUVs, which dominate American roads, payments of $900 to $1,200 are no longer rare. They're expected. Let that sink in. That's not rent. That's not childcare. That's transportation. And yet millions of people sign those contracts every year without hesitation. Not because they're rich, but because the system has been redesigned to make expensive decisions feel affordable. These aren't rich people. Here's the most important thing to understand. The people driving these vehicles are not secretly wealthy. They're teachers, nurses, warehouse workers, office employees, small business owners. They earn decent incomes, but nowhere near enough to comfortably support these payments using traditional financial logic. So if income hasn't exploded, what changed? Car loans got stretched into the future. Once upon a time, car loans were short and boring. 3 years, 4 years if you were pushing it. Now, 6, 7, even 8 years is standard. Some lenders are flirting with 10-year loans, which is honestly terrifying. Here's why this works. When you stretch a loan long enough, almost any price can be turned into a reasonable monthly payment. A $60,000 vehicle sounds insane, but $850 a month, that feels doable, especially when the salesperson says, most people pay more than that. But that lower monthly number comes at a brutal cost. You don't just pay longer, you pay more, thousands more. And by the time the loan is halfway done, the vehicle is worth far less than what you still owe. That's how people end up trapped, owing money on cars they couldn't sell even if they wanted to. The monthly payment illusion. Dealerships rarely talk about total cost. They talk about, what monthly payment are you comfortable with? We can make that work. You deserve this. This reframes the entire decision. Instead of asking, can I afford this vehicle? People ask, can I survive this payment? That's a very different question, and a very dangerous one. Rolling debt forward. Here's where things quietly spiral. Someone buys a car. 3 years later, they want something newer, but they still owe more than the car is worth. So the dealership offers a solution. We'll roll the remaining balance into your new loan. Translation? You're now paying for 2 cars, but driving one. Do this a few times and suddenly your loan balance grows even though you've been making payments for years. This is how people become permanent customers, not by choice but by math. Why this feels normal and why it isn't. Spending $1,000 a month on almost anything else sounds ridiculous. If someone told you they spent that on Tumneon, coffee, clothes, streaming subscriptions, you'd be concerned. But when it's a car, society shrugs and says, well, you need transportation. That mindset didn't happen by accident. Car companies don't sell transportation anymore. They sell identity. Your vehicle represents success, responsibility, hard work, status. And once a purchase becomes emotional, logic stops being invited to the conversation. How people actually afford these payments. This is the uncomfortable part. Most people don't afford these payments. They rearrange their lives around them. They live in smaller homes, delay vacations, skip savings, avoid emergency funds, take second jobs. Some even use their expensive vehicle to earn money just to pay for that same vehicle. The car becomes both the burden and the excuse. The hidden costs people ignore. The payment is only the beginning. There's also insurance, often $200, $400/month. Fuel, especially for trucks. Maintenance, repairs, depreciation. Modern vehicles are complex machines. When they break, the bills are shocking. And when there's no emergency fund, That's when credit cards and personal loans enter the story. The real math nobody runs. Let's be conservative. A $55,000 vehicle over 7 years can easily cost over $65,000 in payments, tens of thousands in insurance and fuel, thousands more in maintenance. By the end, you may have spent well over $120,000. And what do you own? A vehicle worth a fraction of that. That's not building wealth. That's converting income into depreciation, the psychological trap. Once someone commits to this lifestyle, it becomes personal. Suggesting a cheaper car doesn't sound like advice. It sounds like judgment. The vehicle becomes part of their identity. Letting go feels like admitting failure. And the industry knows this. That's why the focus is never on long-term cost. It's always on comfort, pride, and monthly numbers. The truth no one likes hearing. Most people driving those expensive vehicles aren't winning. They're managing. They're juggling. They're stressed. They look successful, but feel financially stuck. And the irony? A reliable used car paired with smart investing often creates far more freedom than any luxury truck ever could. Outro. The wake-up moment. So next time you see a vehicle that costs more than a house did 20 years ago, remember, you're not looking at wealth. You're looking at a system that made debt feel normal. And if you're driving something paid off or close to it, you might already be further ahead than you think.